Chosen one, please hear this. What I am about to say is not something I can afford to soften, because the time for softening has passed. And the God who loves you enough to cry is also the God who loves you enough to say the hard thing before it is too late. There is a divine communication happening right now, in this specific moment, that most people will dismiss. They will call it a coincidence that they found this message. They will half listen, they will take what is comfortable and scroll past what is confronting, and in doing so, they will step around the very thing that was sent specifically to stop them from what they are about to walk away from. You are so close to missing everything. I want you to understand the weight of that sentence, not as a condemnation, as a description of a reality that heaven can see and that you cannot fully see from where you are standing right now. There are people in sacred history who came within inches of the thing they had been promised and turned back, not because they were wicked, because they were afraid, because the evidence in front of them did not match the promise they had been given, because the receiver inside them was not operating at the level required to perceive what was actually present, and in the gap between what was present and what they could perceive, everything was nearly lost. This message is a divine intervention, not an entertainment, not a spiritual pick-me-up, a communication from the God who is watching your story and who has seen the trajectory of the last several weeks and who has sent this specific message to this specific person to say something that will change the direction of what happens next. God is not angry with you. I need you to hear this clearly. What you are sensing in this moment, the weight of it, the urgency of it, that is not the anger of a disappointed father. That is the grief of a God who placed everything that was meant for you within your reach and is watching you about to walk in a direction that takes you away from it. Not because of sin, not because of failure, because of a specific and addressable condition in the receiver that is causing you to misread what is actually present. There is something I want to bring forward here before we go further. Something that most people in spiritual communities have never been told about that is directly relevant to what we are discussing. In research laboratories, over decades of study, scientists found something about the way the human brain functions that explains why spiritually sincere people who are doing everything right at the level of obedience and faith, are still failing to perceive and receive what has been placed near them. The research connects back to a Nobel Prize, and what it found is that most adults are operating with their two brain hemispheres in a state of significant disconnection, not fully synchronized, not operating as the unified whole they were designed to be. And in that partial state, the receiver, the mind that must perceive, recognize, and respond to what God is placing in front of them, is running at a fraction of its designed capacity. The synchronization problem is not spiritual. It is physiological, and it is specific, and it has a specific solution. I will bring that forward later. For now, hold that, because everything in this message connects to it. There are 5 ways that the nearly missing manifests. 5 specific patterns that describe how a person who is faithful, who is trying, who genuinely wants what God has prepared, can still be in the process of walking past it. I want to go through each of them because one or more of them will describe your current situation precisely. The first way is misidentifying delays as denials. When the thing that was promised does not arrive on the expected schedule, the mind begins to construct an explanation. And the most available explanation, the one that feels most honest, is that the thing is not coming, that the promise was for someone else, that the window has closed, that the faith was sincere but the outcome was not going to be what was described. And once that explanation is accepted, the behavior changes. The person stops positioning for the arrival. They stop watching for it. They redirect their attention to managing the reality of the delay rather than remaining expectant for the arrival. And in doing so, they are no longer positioned to receive it when it comes. The delay is not a denial, but the response to the delay, as if it were a denial, creates a posture that produces an outcome that looks identical to denial from the inside. And that is the specific thing that is happening for some of you in this moment. The promised thing is not gone. The trajectory changed because the posture changed, and the posture can change back. The second way is operating in familiarity rather than perception. Familiarity is the enemy of fresh recognition. When you have been waiting for something long enough, the mind begins to fill in the experience of waiting with a settled familiarity. The waiting becomes comfortable. The seeking becomes routine, and routine seeking does not have the quality of attention required to recognize an arrival that does not look like what was expected. Many chosen ones have been in the presence of what they were promised and have not recognized it because the familiarity of the waiting had dulled the freshness of the perception. The third way is receiving only the surface level of what is present. Because the receiver is operating below capacity, the depth of what God has placed near you is not fully accessible. You get a portion of it, the surface, the immediate and obvious layer. But the full depth of the provision, the full weight of the relationship, the full significance of the situation is not registering. And because you are only receiving the surface, you are making decisions about what is present based on incomplete information. This is why situations that contained everything you were looking for have passed through your life without you fully recognizing them. Not because they were not there, because you were not equipped to receive them at full depth. The fourth way is that interference has been placed between you and what you are approaching. This is not metaphorical. There is a specific opposition that targets the chosen one in the moment just before arrival, with the specific goal of creating confusion, fear, and misdirection at the point of highest proximity to the thing that was promised. If you have been experiencing unusual confusion lately, if decisions that should be clear are foggy, if you are finding it difficult to trust your own perceptions, that is not random. That is targeted interference designed specifically for the moment you are in right now. The fifth way is the one that this entire message is built around. The receiver itself has been compromised in a specific and addressable way. Not by spiritual failure, by the cumulative effect of the modern environment on the neurological architecture that the spirit must express itself through. And because the receiver is compromised, the signal, the clear divine communication, the recognition of the provision, the perceptual accuracy required to navigate the final steps is being delivered into a system that cannot fully receive it. I want to make sure you are hearing the full weight of the fifth way, because this is the one that changes everything when it is understood. The receiver being compromised is not a spiritual condition. It is not evidence of sin or disobedience or insufficient faith. It is evidence of a universal physiological reality that affects virtually every adult who has grown up in the modern world. The educational system, the nutritional environment, the pace of adult life, the chronic low-grade stress that is the background of most adult experience. All of these, together, gradually disrupt the synchronization between the two hemispheres of the brain. The synchronization that is present in nearly all children is absent in nearly all adults. And the absence of that synchronization is the specific condition that is creating the gap between what God is placing near you and your ability to fully perceive and receive it. This is the missing layer, the layer that sincere spiritual practice cannot by itself address, because it is not a spiritual problem. The prayer is sincere, the faith is genuine, the obedience is real. But the instrument through which all of that must ultimately be expressed, and through which the divine communication must be received and recognized, is operating at a fraction of its designed capacity. And no amount of spiritual effort corrects a physiological disruption. That is not failure. That is an accurate understanding of how the system works. And the reason this matters so urgently right now is that you are at the point of greatest proximity to what you have been waiting for. The thing that was promised is closer than it has ever been. The relationship that was meant for this season is in your field, but the receiver is compromised, and you are nearly missing it because the signal is being delivered into a system that cannot fully process it. The interference knows this. The opposition that targets the chosen one at the moment of highest proximity is not random in its strategy. It works by amplifying the compromised state, by making the fog denser at the exact moment when clarity is most needed, by increasing the confusion at the exact moment when discernment is most critical, not because it can prevent what was promised, because if it can compromise the receiver enough at the exact right moment, the arrival can pass unrecognized. And an unrecognized arrival is, from the inside, indistinguishable from a denied one. This is why God is urgent. This is why the message you are in right now carries a quality of weight that is different from the usual. Because the window for the thing you are nearly missing is not permanently open. The alignment that exists right now, the proximity to the provision that has been arranged, has a specific duration, and the urgency you are sensing is not manipulation. It is accurate information from a God who can see the timeline and who is sending this communication because there is still time. You have not missed it yet. Now, I want to walk through the diagnosis at a deeper level, because the archetype D framework that God uses with the chosen one is not random. It is a specific pattern of diagnosis followed by root cause, followed by 3 specific solutions. And the solutions are not generic. They are targeted at the specific ways the nearly missing is happening for you right now. The diagnosis is this: you are carrying genuine faith, genuine calling, genuine preparation. But there is a gap between what you are carrying and what is being expressed in your daily life. A gap between the quality of your interior life and the quality of what is manifesting in the external dimensions. Between the clarity you have in your best moments and the fog that returns in your ordinary ones. That gap is not a spiritual failure. It is a diagnostic indicator, and diagnosing it accurately is the first step toward closing it. The root cause has 2 dimensions. The first dimension is the identity confusion that comes from a long formation season. When you have been in preparation for an extended period, the mind constructs an identity around the preparation. The chosen one, who has been in formation for years, begins to identify primarily as someone who is being prepared rather than as someone who has arrived and is ready to express. And the identity of the person being prepared produces a different quality of perception than the identity of the person who is ready. The prepared person is still looking for the confirmation that they are ready. The ready person is looking for the assignment. One produces a posture of continued waiting. The other produces a posture of active engagement with what is already present. The second dimension of the root cause is the neurological gap between spiritual perception and mind-level processing. The spirit perceives what God places near you. The mind must process that perception and translate it into recognition and action. When the mind is operating below its designed synchronization, the translation is partial. You get a portion of the perception. You feel something is significant without being able to identify exactly what or why. You sense the presence of what you have been looking for without being able to fully lock onto it. You make decisions from partial information and then wonder why the outcomes are less than what the calling promised. Now let me speak to the 3 solutions. These are not 3 options to choose from. They are three layers that must all be addressed to close the gap between where you are and what you are nearly missing. The first solution is the identity shift. This requires a deliberate decision to stop relating to yourself as the person who is waiting and to start relating to yourself as the person who has arrived at the edge of the thing that was prepared. This is not a pretense. It is a recognition of what is actually true. The preparation is complete. The formation is done. The season of being readied is over. And continuing to operate from the waiting identity after the preparation is complete is not humility. It is a delay that is costing you the recognition of what is already present. The identity shift looks like this in practical terms. You begin to make decisions from the perspective of the person who has the assignment rather than the person who is waiting for it. You begin to use your gift with the confidence of the person who has been given it and trained in it, rather than the tentativeness of the person who is still hoping they have what they think they have. You begin to look at what is near you in your life right now with the expectation that some of it is what was promised, rather than with the assumption that what was promised is still entirely in the future. This shift does not require new information. It does not require a new experience. It requires a decision, and the decision is available to you right now. The second solution is the perception restoration. This is the neurological dimension that we began to discuss earlier, and it is the most practically urgent of the three, because the window you are in right now requires a level of perceptual clarity that the compromised receiver is not providing. There is a medical research discovery that addresses this specific problem. A team of neuroscientists, led by Dr. Daniel Barone in New York, spent years working on the following question. How do you restore whole brain activation, the synchronized state that Nobel Prize research in 1981 identified as the natural operating condition of the human mind, in a way that is accessible to ordinary people in their ordinary lives, not requiring clinical settings, not requiring expensive equipment, not requiring months of practice? What they built was an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence that reconnects the two hemispheres and restores the synchronized operating state. The result for the people who have used it is a quality of clarity and perceptual accuracy that is unmistakably different from the partial state. Before I describe what was built, I want to share two stories from people who have already found it. A woman from California had been in the nearly missing pattern for longer than she could name precisely. She had been faithful, she had been sincere, she had done the work, and she kept arriving at the same experience of things almost working, relationships that were close to what she needed but not quite, opportunities that were adjacent to the assignment but not the center of it. After 10 days of using what I am about to describe, the almostness disappeared. The clarity of her perception sharpened to the point where the right thing and the not quite right thing became unmistakably distinct. She stopped nearly missing because her receiver was no longer operating at the level of almost. A man from Texas described a specific experience that resonates with what we have been discussing. He had been in the presence of the breakthrough multiple times. He could sense it, but something kept occurring that resulted in him stepping around it rather than through it. After 2 weeks, he described a change so distinct that he used the word unmistakable. The fog that had been creating the gap between sensing and recognizing was gone. What was before him was legible in a way it had not been before, and what had been nearly missing became what he walked into. That is because of what the team I am about to describe discovered. The third solution is the recognition practice. This is the daily habit of actively looking for what has been placed near you rather than waiting for it to announce itself. The provision that God places near the chosen one does not always come with a label. It does not always arrive in the obvious form. The recognition practice has three components. The first is attentive review. Once a day, you review the people, situations, and opportunities that you encountered, and you ask whether any of them carried something that you did not fully recognize in the moment. The nearly missing happens most often in the passage of ordinary-looking moments that contained extraordinary content. The review trains the perception to catch what the moment might have passed by. The second component is threshold response. When something resonates, when a person or situation or opportunity produces a quality of recognition that is different from ordinary experience, the recognition practice requires immediate action rather than deferred evaluation. The threshold for recognition is the signal. The response to the signal is what the recognition practice trains you to provide, without the delay that allows the nearly missing to complete itself. The third component is the confirmation request. When you are uncertain whether something is what it appears to be, when the perception is registering something significant but the mind cannot fully confirm it, the recognition practice teaches you to bring the question directly to God with a specific request for clarification rather than resolving it by default toward inaction. Most of the nearly missing that happens in the lives of chosen ones is not because God did not answer. It is because the question was not asked. The moment was allowed to pass in ambiguity rather than being brought forward for the clarity that was available. Now let me return to what the team discovered, because it is the practical foundation of the perception restoration solution. And the window you are in requires that you understand it clearly before this message ends. There is a study that won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1981, not from a spiritual tradition, from a research laboratory. Dr. Roger Sperry and his colleagues proved something that most people in spiritual communities have never been told about. The human brain is designed to operate with both hemispheres, the left and the right, working in synchronized connection. When that synchronization is active and complete, a state the research called whole brain activation, the mind performs at a level of clarity, creativity, and perceptual accuracy that is genuinely different from anything achievable in the partial state. And they found that 98% of children under 5 operate in this synchronized state naturally. By adulthood, fewer than 1 in 1,000 people maintain it. The cumulative effect of the modern environment, the fragmented information environment, the chronic stress, the nutritional disruption, the pace of adult life, gradually disconnects the two hemispheres from each other, not through a single event, through an accumulation of small disruptions over years, and the result is a mind that is operating at a fraction of the perceptual capacity it was designed for, a mind that can sense what is near without fully receiving it, a mind that can almost recognize the arrival without the clarity to act on it decisively. This is the neurological profile of the nearly missing, and addressing it requires a neurological intervention, not a spiritual one. Dr. Daniel Barone and his team in New York built exactly that. They took clinical neural synchronization protocols that require extensive equipment and professional settings, protocols that exist in specialized neurological practices at a cost of $300 per session or $7,000 for home equipment, and they compress the active mechanism into an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence. 8 minutes, headphones, eyes closed. The sequence works beneath conscious awareness and restores the synchronized operating state in the people who use it consistently. They call it the genius switch, a description that names exactly what it does. It switches the whole brain activation state back on, in the same way that 98% of children have it active by default, and nearly every adult has it gradually dimmed. The switch, once thrown, changes the operating baseline of the mind. The perceptual clarity returns. The gap between sensing and recognizing closes. The nearly missing stops happening because the receiver is no longer operating at the level of almost. The genius switch is not a brainwave product. It is not a soundtrack engineered to produce a mood. It is a targeted neural synchronization sequence built on Nobel Prize research that addresses the specific mechanism of hemisphere disconnection. 8 minutes. Headphones. Eyes closed. That is the entirety of what is required. The process works beneath the level of conscious awareness. You do not need to concentrate on it. You do not need to follow a guided sequence. You simply use the time to rest or pray or be still, while the sequence does the neurological work that produces the restored state. The genius switch is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who has recognized something in this message. The person who understood the nearly missing diagnosis, not as a distant description, but as an accurate account of a specific experience they have been living. The person who knows the difference between the moments of clarity when the receiver is working and the longer periods of fog when it is not, and who is ready to stop treating the fog as a permanent condition and start treating it as something with a specific address and a specific solution. Practically, in-person neurofeedback, the closest clinical comparison, costs $300 per hour. Home equipment costs $7,000. The Genius Switch was made available online at $49. Today, on this specific page, an additional $10 off brings it to $39. 4 free bonuses are included. A guided visualization from a top-rated creator on the Calm app. A grocery guide that identifies the most common brain fog contributing foods in American households and provides specific lower-cost alternatives available at major stores. A text over 100 years old that is the primary source behind virtually every modern manifestation technique, and a printable 5 habits infographic. Everything is backed by an unconditional money-back guarantee. No conditions, no time limit, no questions. Listen once. Listen every day for 3 months. If it does not do what it has done for over 18,000 people, every dollar is returned. The risk of trying it is 0. The risk of not trying it is the continuation of the nearly missing in a window that has a specific duration. If the nearly missing is happening through the compromised receiver, then what you have been calling insufficient faith or insufficient readiness is not the real problem. The real problem has a real solution. And not taking the solution is not humility. It is the continuation of a condition that is causing you to step around the very thing that was arranged for you. One note of clarity. If you search for similar products on any streaming platform, you will find tracks that use related language. Dr. Barone and his team studied them. The overwhelming majority had no neural synchronization mechanism embedded. The barrier to using the language is 0. The mechanism is what matters. The mechanism only exists in what his team built. The verified source is the link in the description. If your spirit confirms what has been described here, the link is in the description below and in the pinned comment. Read everything on the page before deciding. All the details are there. The tool does not replace obedience. It does not replace faith. It does not replace the prayer that has been the foundation of your formation. What it does is give the spirit a mind that is running at the level the spirit has been working at all along. And that alignment, the spirit and the mind both at full function, is what closes the gap between nearly missing and actually receiving. And for the chosen one who felt the recognition in this message, who knows the fog has been the barrier rather than the failure, the path is still in the description. A single step from a clear mind in the direction of the window that is still open. Before this message ends, I want to give you 3 very specific instructions, not general guidance. Specific instructions for the window you are in right now, for the specific proximity to what was promised that you are currently at. The first instruction is to stop treating the delay as information about the outcome. The delay is information about the timing. Those are two different things. The thing that was promised is still promised. The delay in its arrival is not evidence of its cancellation. It is evidence of a timing that was designed for a specific reason, a reason that will become clear from the other side. Stop reading the delay as denial. Start reading it as timing. The second instruction is to increase your exposure to what you are looking for. This sounds obvious, but most people in the nearly missing pattern are doing the opposite. They are reducing their exposure to protect themselves from the disappointment of another near miss. They are contracting, staying away from the places and situations and conversations where the thing they are looking for might be present, because being near it and not receiving it has been painful. But contraction in the season of proximity is the behavior most likely to complete the nearly missing. Expand, not recklessly, deliberately. Go toward what you are looking for with the confidence that the window is open and the receiver is about to be restored to full function. The third instruction is specific to the moment after this message ends. Do not spend the next several hours in the same state you have been in. Something has shifted in this conversation. The weight you felt at the beginning, the urgency, the quality of hearing something you needed to hear, that is real. That is a divine communication that landed. And it changes the trajectory if you respond to it. The response it requires is not a feeling, it is a decision. A decision to act on what was described here rather than to let the encounter become another near miss. There is a figure from sacred history whose story I want to place alongside yours as this message continues. His name was Elijah, a prophet of extraordinary power, a man whose calling was undeniable and whose track record of divine encounter was documented and significant. And yet there came a moment, after the greatest victory of his life, when he ran, when the pressure that arrived immediately after the breakthrough caused him to flee in the direction opposite to the assignment. He sat down under a tree and said, it was enough. He believed he had missed it. He believed he had come to the end of what was possible. He had arrived at the threshold of nearly missing everything through exhaustion and fear at the exact moment of his highest proximity to the fullness of what God had planned. And in that moment, God did not send a rebuke. God sent food. God sent water. God sent a word that said, the journey is too long for you. The need was not for more faithfulness. The need was for a restored capacity to continue. And after the restoration, Elijah got up and completed the most significant chapter of his assignment. He did not miss it, but he came within moments of missing it. Not because of sin, because the receiver had become depleted below the threshold of what the assignment required. You are at an Elijah moment. The nearly missing you are in is not the result of unfaithfulness. It is the result of a receiver that has been operating below the threshold required for the next chapter. And the communication you are in right now is the food and the water. It is the divine provision of clarity at the moment of highest proximity, before the window closes, before the nearly missing completes itself. The question God is asking in this moment is not whether you have been faithful. He knows you have been faithful. The question is whether you will receive the restoration that was provided for the specific depletion you are in, whether you will accept that the need is real, that the solution is specific, and that accepting it is not weakness but wisdom. Elijah could have declined the food. He could have told the angel he was not hungry. He could have insisted that his faithfulness was sufficient and that he would continue on his own resources, and he would have missed the assignment. Not because he was unfaithful, because he refused the provision that was sent for the specific gap he was in. The provision that was sent for the specific gap you are in is described in this message. The spiritual provision is this word, the clarity that it is landing, the identity shift that it is making available. The recognition that the nearly missing is real and addressable, and the neurological provision, the restoration of the receiver to full operational capacity, is what was described and is in the description. Both are being offered at the moment of highest proximity. Both are part of the complete restoration. Now let me return to the 3 instructions and be more specific about how each one is applied in the window you are in right now. The first instruction, to stop treating delay as denial, requires a specific practice. Every time the thought arrives that the thing promised is no longer coming, you interrupt it, not by arguing with it, by replacing it with the accurate information. The accurate information is this: the delay has a duration. The duration is not permanent. The provision is still in motion. And the evidence for this is the very fact that you are in this message right now, that the urgency you felt when you began listening was real, and that the quality of recognition you have been experiencing throughout this message is the discernment telling you that you are at the moment, not past it. The second instruction, to increase your exposure, requires you to identify one specific direction in which you have been contracting and to make a single deliberate move in the opposite direction before this day ends. Not a dramatic gesture, a single move. A conversation you have been delaying, a door you have been standing in front of without knocking, a situation you have been circling without entering. One move in the direction of expansion, in the direction of the thing you are looking for, before this day ends. The third instruction, to respond to this message rather than let it become another near miss, is the most immediately actionable of the 3. The response that is required is not a feeling, it is a series of decisions. The identity decision, the neurological restoration decision, and the expansion decision. 3 decisions, made before the quality of this moment fades into the ordinary baseline of the day that follows. The window is open, the provision is present, the nearly missing does not have to complete itself. There is something I want to address before we enter the closing, because it applies specifically to the nearly missing pattern and to the person who has been in it for an extended period. The nearly missing leaves a residue, not just in the outer experience, but in the interior, in the way you hold hope, in the way you approach things that look like what you have been looking for. The repeated experience of near arrival, followed by continued waiting, installs a specific kind of guardedness, a learned reflex that protects against the full weight of hope, because the full weight of hope has been followed by the full weight of disappointment too many times. That guardedness is understandable. It was built for a reason. It served a protective function. But in the window you are in right now, it is the single most significant barrier to receiving what is actually present. Because what is present in this moment requires the full weight of hope to be engaged. A guarded half-hope will not produce the quality of recognition and response that this window requires. The provision that has been arranged for you is waiting for a receiver that is fully open, not one that is protecting itself from the possibility of another near miss. The decision to be fully open again, to release the guardedness and allow the full expectation back in, is the most vulnerable thing the chosen one in this moment can do, and it is the most necessary. Not vulnerable in the sense of reckless, vulnerable in the sense of willing to receive the full weight of what is present without the protection of reduced expectation. There is a closing I want to speak over you, but before I do, I need to name something that God wants you to know about the grief that was described at the beginning of this message. God is not crying because of what you did wrong. God is not crying because you have been insufficient. God is crying because of what you are about to lose, if this moment passes without the shift that this message is calling you to. The grief is not accusation. It is love that can see the proximity of the provision and the proximity of the window closing, and that is doing everything available to communicate urgency before both arrive at the same point. You are not too late. The window is open right now. The message arrived in time. And the decisions available to you in this moment are the decisions that will determine whether the nearly missing completes itself or whether the arrival that has been approaching for years finally finds its full reception. Let me speak to something that the nearly missing pattern creates in the body that most spiritual teaching does not address. When a person has been close to what they were looking for many times without arriving, the nervous system begins to respond to the approach of the promised thing with a form of hypervigilance, a state of heightened alertness that is simultaneously the result of caring deeply and a barrier to the calm receptivity that full reception requires. The person who has nearly missed becomes sensitized to the approach in a way that paradoxically interferes with the arrival. This hypervigilance shows up in different forms: the constant checking of circumstances for signs of the arrival, the over-analysis of every interaction and opportunity, the difficulty settling into the present moment because the attention is perpetually scanning the horizon for the thing that is coming, and because the attention is perpetually scanning rather than present, it tends to slide past the actual arrival when it comes in a quiet or unexpected form rather than the dramatic form the hypervigilance was trained to watch for. Part of what this message is designed to do is interrupt that pattern, not just intellectually, at the level of the nervous system and the operating state of the receiver. When the clarity of recognition arrives, when the fog lifts and the synchronized state is restored, the hypervigilance loses its grip, not because the desire for what was promised has diminished, but because the clarity of the restored receiver makes the constant scanning unnecessary. The person in the full synchronized state does not need to scan anxiously for what was promised. They can perceive it when it arrives, because they are present to the moment rather than perpetually reaching toward the future. This is one of the less obvious gifts of the restoration that was described earlier. It does not only improve the quality of the mind in moments of task performance, it changes the quality of presence itself. The ability to be fully in the moment rather than partially absent into the scanning for what is coming. And full presence in the current moment is precisely what is required for full reception of what arrives in this moment. I want to address one more thing before we close, because it applies to the person who is reading this at a moment of genuine proximity and who needs to hear it clearly. You have not failed. The nearly missing is not the record of a life that has been failing to do what was required. It is the record of a person who has been sincerely seeking while operating with a receiver that was not equal to the proximity. The seeking was right. The faith was real. The commitment was genuine. The only thing that was below the level required was the neurological instrument through which all of that was being expressed. And that is addressable. That is not a permanent condition. And addressing it is not an admission of failure. It is the act of the person who understands what the window requires and who provides it. The grief that God carried over the nearly missing was not grief at you. It was grief over the gap between what was placed near you and what you were equipped to receive. And the message you are in right now is the action taken to close that gap before the window passes, to provide the understanding and the path that makes the nearly missing a chapter that ended rather than a pattern that continued. This is the chapter where the nearly missing ends, where the clarity arrives, where the provision that was always present becomes visible in a way it has not been before, and where the chosen one who was so close for so long finally arrives at what was always theirs. Let me speak to the shape of the life that is on the other side of the nearly missing, because part of what has sustained the pattern is an unclear picture of what arrival actually looks like. The chosen one, in a long, nearly missing season, often has a very specific and detailed picture of what the provision should look like when it comes. And that specificity, while coming from a genuine desire, can become a filter that causes the actual provision to be unrecognized because it arrived in a slightly different form than the one that was watched for. The life on the other side of the nearly missing does not look like the fantasy version that sustained the waiting. It looks like clarity. It looks like decisions that have a quality of ease that decisions in the fog did not have. It looks like relationships that have a depth that is different from the surface-level connection that was the ceiling in the partial state. It looks like work that carries the quality of the calling rather than the quality of the effort required to sustain survival. It looks like a day that begins with a baseline of clearness rather than a baseline of heaviness. It looks like you, fully operating as who you were made to be, in the contexts that your calling was designed for. That is available. That is what is on the other side of the window that is open right now, and none of the things required to step through it are beyond your reach. The shift is available. 2-7. The restoration is available. The expansion is available. The only thing that determines whether the nearly missing completes itself or becomes the last chapter before the arrival is the decision you make when this message ends. Chosen one, I want to close this message with something that I want to be received in the deepest place available to receive it. I want to acknowledge the specific difficulty of the nearly missing pattern, the particular grief of coming close repeatedly without arriving, the way it wears on the expectation, the way it requires repeated acts of rebuilding the hope that another near arrival depleted. That is not a small thing. That is one of the most demanding experiences a spiritually sincere person can go through. And you have been through it not once, but many times. I want you to hear this clearly. The difficulty of the pattern was not evidence that you were wrong to be expecting what you were expecting. It was evidence of the specific proximity that made the pattern possible. You cannot nearly miss something that is far away. The nearly missing only happens when the thing is genuinely close. Every near arrival in your history was evidence that the provision was real and was near. The problem was never the distance. The problem was the receiver, and the receiver is about to be addressed. Release the interpretation that the nearly missing was evidence of unworthiness. That interpretation is not accurate, and it is not something God offered. He offered urgency. He offered the communication that the window is open and the proximity is real and the restoration is available. That is not the communication of a God who has decided you are unworthy. That is the communication of a God who can see exactly where you are and what you need, and who sent this message precisely because there is still time. Release the weight of every near miss, not to minimize what each of them cost, to free the receiver from carrying a burden that was never meant to be permanent. Release the guardedness that was built for protection. It served you in the season when the hope had to be rationed. That season is done. The window is open. Receive with the full weight of what you have been given permission to expect. Now I declare this over you. I declare that the window that is open right now is the window you were formed for. I declare that the receiver is being restored to the capacity required for the full reception of what was arranged. I declare that the nearly missing is ending, not gradually, decisively, in this moment, in this season, because the gap between what God placed near you and your ability to recognize and receive it is being closed from both sides at once. From the side of the provision, through this message and the urgency it carries, and from the side of the receiver, through the restoration that is available and that you are choosing. You are not going to miss it. The nearly missing ends here. I declare that what was prepared before you understood it was being prepared is arriving now. I declare that your perception is sharpening to the level required for the recognition. I declare that what you have called delay is revealing itself as the last measure of the exact timing that was always designed. I declare that the grief in heaven over what you were about to miss is turning to the celebration of what you are about to receive. And so it is. For the chosen one who heard the urgency in this message and recognized the receiver as the specific barrier, the path that was described is in the description and the pinned comment. That is the only place I will leave it. The decision is yours. The window is open. The provision is real. And you have been given everything you need to receive it.